When you don't go to geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar!
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
Welcome to another edition of Free Association Radio. It's Robert Phoenix. And this is 15 Minutes of Flame. Yeah, that's right, where I take 15 minutes or thereabouts and I just put a blowtorch to what's happening out there in the world. Now, some of you know the astrological side of me. Some of you know the kind of writing side of me. Some of you know the talking head, Vox Populi side of me, and this is where I try to put it all together in a very condensed period of time, clarify the issues of the day. Now, I got an email from a longtime listener who told me that Pizzagate is not real, that Comet Ping Pong is just a pizza restaurant. Well, you know, I hate to break the news, but there are literally thousands of people that have descended upon Pizzagate to just tear this thing wide open. And whether or not it is just a pizza place or not, to some extent is completely irrelevant. Because what it is getting to is something I've been talking about for quite a while, which is this centuries-old practice of human sacrifice. And the human sacrifice of the young. It's been going on since Babylon and maybe beyond. It is a cruel and bitter ritual. And it's not just Pizzagate. Again, I've talked about this before. This goes to Penn State and Second Mile. This goes to Jimmy Savile. This goes to the Franklin cover-up. This is Johnny Gosch. This is Jeff Gannon. This is Ted Gunderson. This goes all the way to the Crown. It goes to the White House. I mean, this thing is deep and profound. It goes to communities, cities, towns. It's all over the place. And the reason why there is such a rush to censor information now is because we're getting close. We are getting close to the triple Gordian knot, not just one Gordian knot, but the triple Gordian knot. I once, or maybe more than once, uttered this sentiment that if they ripped back the veil of reality that we are ingesting on a daily basis, and if people saw what was behind that veil, they really saw it, I mean everything, they would be mortified. They would be stopped dead in their tracks. And it would be so shocking that you would see a global paralysis. But what's happening now is that we're stepping up. We're stepping up, and the information is being stepped down. It's kind of like a poison. You know, if you take a little bit of poison every day, and what happens to you is that eventually you become immune to the poison, right? I remember there was a guy, about 5 or 6 years ago, he was an Israeli operative, and he got pounced by the LAPD and a bunch of people down in. Do you remember this guy? And it had to do with biowarfare and all kinds of crazy stuff. And they hit his car with some form of tear gas. But because he was in training and was getting tear gas training on a semi-regular basis, what it did is it got his system as close to immune to tear gas as possible, so that when the real tear gas hit, he was able to handle it. You see, this is what's taking place now, and we're getting small doses. We're getting small doses of the poison. We're getting small doses of the tear gas because at some point, we're going to get the big picture. And we're going to be in a place where the big picture will be manageable so that there won't be a complete psychotic break with humanity. This is what's happening right now. This is what's on the table. I am telling you, we are as close to this and getting to the core of the depravity as we have ever been at a collective level. Now, when this happens, of course, the people on the other side are not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy. Number one, they're not happy that Donald Trump got elected again. I don't care what you think about Trump. They don't like him. And it's not just some kind of game that Donald Trump is playing just so he can be the foil, the tin foil to Hillary's coup d'etat. No, this is something that he is invested in. You don't take that much strife, you don't take that much vilification and just smile and say, well, I'm just playing my role, that's fine, I'm playing my part. No, a Leo rising with Mars and Leo on the ascendant does not do that dance, I'm telling you right now. By the way, if you want to look at some of the astrological stuff I cooked up last night, go to my YouTube page and check out the live stream. I'll break down the inauguration chart, Trump's chart in conjunction or in synastry and midpoint composite with the inauguration, as well as the day of the Electoral College, also with Mercury retrograde, which is a very shaky day. Both days are kind of shaky. Go to my live stream and check it out. I broke it all down last night. Live stream, of course, on the YouTube channel, not on this one. So when we get to this point in time, things get really sketchy. Because what we're doing is we're poking the beast. And the beast does not want to be poked, not in this way. And so they will use any means necessary to shut down this collective awakening. I've talked about this before. And every time people have gotten to a point where there was either prosperity or some semblance of knowledge, that some slightly Malthusian, if not physically, at least economically, some Malthusian act is generated. And I'll give you just two examples right off the top of my head. If you go back to the Black Plague, there was essentially an awakening that was taking place in Europe. They were coming out of the Dark Ages. People were growing food. They were repopulating. The knowledge that was hidden in the mystery schools, not the mystery schools, but the cathedral schools, geometry, ratio, mathematics, reason, logic, it was all starting to come out. And there were sects and guilds. People were building. People had skills. There was this kind of land grab that was going on between ruling families. And there were actually collectivist movements taking place during that time. You don't read a lot about them, but they were there, and they were trying to establish themselves outside of feudal rule. And so while this is taking place, while you have a lot of people with, again, highly skilled builders, guilds people, crafts people, what happens? They're bringing the rats, and the Black Plague is introduced. And so now we have a shutting down. And then who is able to navigate that experience. So it was the ruling elite. Of course, they had the salt. They could keep their immune system up. In many cases, they fled the cities. Read Boccaccio's Decameron, Tales of the Decameron, and you'll understand what they did. They wiped out their competition. Did it with the French Revolution, same deal. Wiped out the competition. In the guise of a revolution, in the guise of liberté, did the same thing here with the Great Depression. Did the same thing with the Vietnam War. Coming into out of the Korean War, 1950s America was incredibly prosperous. But we needed a war. We needed a war to divide the country in generations. We needed to kill Kennedy as a result of wanting to accelerate that war, because Kennedy would have gotten us out of Vietnam. Every time we reach this apex where there seems to be this moment where the masses are about to awaken, where the masses are going to have some form of prosperity, what happens? They shut it down. They shut it down either economically, or they'll shut it down with some kind of collective traumatic event, or they'll shut it down via a war, which would qualify as a collective traumatic event. We're there right now. We're at the precipice of this point. We are in a serious phase of flux and mutability. And what is the event horizon beyond January 21st? Can we even see it? Can we see beyond next week? Next month? Vision's a bit cloudy here. It's a bit cloudy. If this transition takes place, and I don't care what you think of Trump. I don't care what you think of his advisors. Some of them are good. Some of them are not good. Some of them are old school. What do you expect? You know, if we really want to solve this thing, we're going to have to get out of the Fed. Bottom line, plain and simple. That's just really the only way we can unplug ourselves from the clutches of fiat banking and collective usury. Use the word usury, boy. You're kind of on the fringe now of being quote unquote anti-Semitic when you use the word usury, right? Because it goes back to Shylock and it goes back to Shakespeare, all that stuff. Merchant of Venice. So we're here right now. This is it. This is ground zero. And Obama has come out and said that, well, hey, we're going to be looking into the Russians tampering with the electoral process. I'm ordering a full-scale investigation. Secret, double secret. Of course, sources are unnamed. Secret, top secret. Do you know who runs the CIA? John Brennan. I just looked up John Brennan's birth date. He's born on the same day I am. How depressing is that? September 22nd. Man, please. Can I get some cool people on my birthday? I've got John Brennan and Tommy Lasorda. You got to be kidding me. Joan Jett's born on my birthday. She's kind of cool. But John Brennan, if one can trust alternate news sources, and why not? Because we can't trust mainstream news. The alternate news buzz is that John Brennan converted to Islam. We have the head of the CIA who's converted to Islam. Now think about what Donald Trump is doing as it relates to Islam and Saudi Arabia. He's divesting, number one, his holdings in anything having to do with Saudi Arabia, and that will continue to proliferate once he becomes president-elect, not beyond president, he's already there, president of the United States. He will have a full-on frontal assault against anything Saudi Arabian. And the process of allowing refugees to come into this country will be truncated, and it will be essentially shut down through heavy vetting. Now, if you're the head of the CIA and you are a converted Muslim, and Barack Obama, let's be clear about it, he's a Muslim. People say, oh, there's really no, he's a Muslim. Look at who he's surrounded himself with in the Obama administration. It's heavy Muslim. In fact, some people could even make a case that the administration has been taken over by the Muslim Brotherhood. What a coup is that? So if you're in this position, and here comes Trump in his 10-gallon hat, on his white horse, coming to Washington, D.C. eventually, once they remodel the White House, do you think that you've had this investiture in this infrastructure where there is a rush to bring Islam to the United States in huge numbers? And again, I'm not an Islamophobic. I am looking at the facts on the ground. I'm looking at the fact that there's a mosque across the street from my house. Brand new. Super nice. It would rival schools in many parts of this country. I'm right across the street. Do you think that these guys who have invested so much in this wave of a rising theocracy to come in, superimpose itself over the United States and the Constitution and the prevailing culture, do you think they're just going to let Trump come to town? They're going to do everything in their power to stop him and the deep vetting and the divestment of the relationship with Saudi Arabia, which will come in many different forms. Of course, Trump's going to want to go full-blown with oil, petroleum, gas, et cetera, in order to neutralize Saudi Arabia's influence on the petrochemical dollar and in the open market when it comes to oil, to become energy independent, which would be the goal here, even though oil is completely barbaric. I know that they have forms of energy that will blow our minds. They're not going to give it up because it will hack the social economy to such a degree that the corporate structures will be left holding their underwear around their ankles. That's the last thing they want, is cheap energy. Cheap energy equals cheap goods, cheap services, cheap transport to and fro. It's the last thing they want. So maybe Trump is this intermediary kind of disruptor. Maybe 8 years from now, hopefully, we can get to a point where somebody comes along and says, hey, Donald Trump was great, but I'm going to out-Trump Trump. I'm going to bring in free energy, and I'm going to bring us to a merciful end with the Federal Reserve. That is really the ultimate goal here, in my opinion. But here we are now. We're dealing with the here and now. We're not dealing with the now and then. That would be wishful thinking. That would be magical thinking. Sometimes magical thinking works on certain things. Intention works. Faith works. But this is the theater that we are in. Now, they have already proposed a bill that limits, quote unquote, espionage and foreign affairs and Russia. And what they're really gunning for here is full and total censorship of the internet. This is what's happening. So that programs like this, who have the technology, this has become the atom bomb for the populace. They don't know what to do with it. Because this is the real 1,000 points of light. This is the million points of light. Internet broadcasters citizen researchers, citizen journalists, and we are legion. Now, a lot of us are regurgitating the same material, which is, it is what it is. And it's all about how you deliver it. Is it clear? Is it cogent? Is it concise? Is it funny? Is it entertaining? Does it connect dots? The answer is yes, and it works. If not, then it's just regurgitation. Now, the people that are really good are the ones who are going to get down 2, 3, 4 levels below everything, beneath the surface of it. In which case, it can be so esoteric that it can border on wildly speculative, and you're off into Sync World, which is not bad. But the thing with Sync World is that Sync World never really comes at. I love the AstroSync people, but what are they getting at? Are they getting at nuclear war? Are they getting at everybody's going to turn to a zombie? Are they getting at full-on nanotech possession of humanity? I mean, what are they getting at in AstroSync land? I love the amalgam of all these strange pieces of information that add up to something. But what's it all add up to? This is where we are. We are at a pivot moment. Fake news, real fake news, fake real news, the alt-left, the alt-right, the alt-center. It's all being mashed up. It's all being slammed together in a hadron collider of awareness. Pizzagate, pedophilia, human sacrifice. It's all there. The dark gods behind it all. The shining light within us that tries to get through it, into it. This is the time. And we have, what do we have? 7 more days until the Electoral College. And then after that, we have, 20 days. That's 20, let's see, it's 19, it's 20, so it'd be 11. We have 31 days after that until Inauguration Day. And beyond that, we are in a brave new world. This is life in new emerging consciousness in the birth canal. It's a very critical phase. Very critical. Well, that's your 15 minutes of flame, even though it's more than 15 minutes today. In fact, it was 23 minutes. I did this on purpose because I wanted to give us a little extra time so I could stretch out a little bit more, but not so much that demands all of your attention in time, so you have to shut down your day. And you can easily listen to this on your phone, on the way to work, on the way home. Tell people about 15 minutes. My goal here is to do it every single morning, and hopefully earlier in the morning, right around 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. That's my goal, being that I also am an astrologer and I have to work with people all around the world. I'm at different time zones, different times. It makes it a little bit more difficult. But that's the goal. 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, let's wrap it up. Have a great day. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart stay open as possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'll be back tomorrow.
When you don't go to geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your move.